Hey, everybody, and welcome to our first official episode of the Bloom Code podcast. I'm your host, Mazani, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I have so much in store for us, so let's jump right in. Okay, so what is the Bloom Code? The Bloom Code essentially is a code of conduct for your life, everybody's trying to get to a place where we can live in peace, prosperity, and perseverance, where we can live the life that God essentially set out for us and not just function, going to work, taking care of the kids, or even if you don't have any kids, just fighting day to day. We want to move away from that. And the Bloom Code is our code to get to that in life. Okay. I created this space for anybody who's struggling to let go of the past or live a new life and figure things out. You may not have anybody there to guide you, or you may have people there and, maybe they don't have the tools, but this was the space that was created to get the tools and learn how to apply them. So I'm so glad that I was able to even set myself up and get to this point where I had something to offer to you guys, because I myself have been through a great deal of what I thought would be the end of my life. Okay. And I'm only 24. So, you know, um, but I did go through a lot to get here. And I just constantly would think about how there's so many people as I moved on and I learned to get through certain things. I just would see that there are so many people who are going through the same thing, who are way older than me, who may not have the resources that I have, who have more than me. It doesn't mean that, you are poverty stricken or anything like that. It can be, you can be going through this and come from any walk of life. So I definitely created this space so that way we could, have the room to build a life that feels whole and not just functional. So, why did I start the Bloom Code? I started the Bloom Code podcast essentially because I went through things that I had no guidance getting through. And once I got through them and I saw that other people could be going through the same thing, it was like, oh, we need to do something about that. So I'm here today doing something about it. But I would say that it took me 3 hard lessons to get where I am now. And the way that I, kind of unpacked it for myself, I just wouldn't wish it on anybody. I would wish that people had somebody there to help them, guide them. And in no way am I here to tell you how to live your life. But at the end of the day, we do need support. We need community. And this space is exactly that. So I created, so I had 3 hard lessons. I'm sorry. I had 3 hard lessons that got me to this point. The first lesson was I learned the hard way, a very hard way, that I did not have any self trust. Okay. When I was 16, I had a baby. Or, well, I had him at 17, but I got pregnant at 16. 6 months after I got pregnant, trigger warning, 6 months after I got pregnant, my dad passed away in a car accident. At this time, anybody can assume how painful it is to lose a parent, especially when you're still a child. It's painful when you're an adult and your parents are in their old age and have lived their lives. My dad was in his mid-30s. Okay. I also was living with him. He was my sole caretaker. And so it hit very, very hard. But after that, it just created a domino effect of like trauma that happened to me. And time again, I would prove to myself that I didn't trust myself. I kept myself in environments that I didn't need to be in, looking for people to guide me when I saw that they didn't have the tools. I constantly would make bad decisions, and I had already felt like me getting pregnant was a bad decision. My baby's 7 now. He is such a great kid. I love him so much, but you still have your feelings around how you got to where you got to, even if you learn to appreciate the things along the way. So I never would claim him as a mistake, but the way that I got him definitely was something that I should have never even went through. But I thought that I was in love. I thought that I was, doing something for the person that I trusted with my life. I was having family problems. I was in my teenage era where I felt like nobody understood me. And it just it just always would end badly. And my baby was one of the good things that I got out of the bad decisions that I made. But nonetheless, the act was a bad decision. Okay. The whole situation was a bad decision. Moving forward, my dad did get into a car accident with a major company. And so there was a payout. And I basically gave that money away. I was staying with somebody. My son was 1 at the time, and I had nothing to my name. My father didn't have any life insurance or any policies that left us any money behind. We lived in the projects, and I had nothing. And because I didn't trust myself enough to make my own decision, I blindly listened to what somebody else told me to do. And in turn, I was left still struggling after I had been given this money. Because my father passed away in this accident, I was left still struggling, figuring out life on my own. And I was 19 when I made the decision. The case finished at it started when I was 16, but it finally settled and everything when I was 19. And it just was heavy. Like, it was heavy. I had no self-trust, and it was like, even though I didn't know anything, even though I didn't know how to do this, I still had to deal with the consequences of my decision, because technically I was an adult. You're a mom. You're an adult. You're 18. We don't have anything to say to you. And that was the energy that I got. But of course, I felt it hard. I tried to fight it, and it was essentially too late, basically. And all of this stemmed from not having trust in myself to actually go and learn and figure out the right way to go. I had a lot of people in my ear, as a young mom or a young parent, period. You may have people in your ear telling you how to raise your child, how to do this, how to do that. And I listened because I felt as though I didn't know what was best. I had already made all these bad decisions. So the least I could do was hear these people out and try it. And I put myself in a lot of bad situations, not even questioning the things that people would say to me because I didn't have any self-trust. Lesson number 2 that put me in a space to feel as though this space needed to be created. Lesson number 2, and I just kind of spoke on this with the giving money away part, but it was lack of financial literacy, or the realization that I lacked financial literacy. I had no scope at all. Literally, all I knew how to do was spend money. And if you can relate, comment down below. All I knew how to do was spend money. I only knew how to work for it and spend it. And there are so many different things to do with money. There are different ways to earn it. And I know all that now. I'm actually, going through all of this kind of pushed me into learning finance. And once I got into the industry, I have found a love for it. So I am a financial professional. I help people with retirement planning, insurance sales, and I love it now. There's so much that I've learned over the last few years, but starting out, I knew nothing. And me knowing nothing put me in a horrible spot. And I had nobody to blame but myself, essentially, because regardless to whether anybody was looking to do the right thing or not, any lawyers or anything looking to do the right thing, because they did see that this was a man who did not have much, but he had kids, and they made the choice that they made. I went along with it because I didn't know any better. It did put me on a path, though, to learning better. Okay. That is one of the things that we will dive into. But that was lesson number 2. And then lesson number 3 was learning the hard way. And this is more recently. A lot of this stuff happened years ago. But this lesson is a little bit more recent. And it was the real push for me to come and sit down and talk to y'all today and start this conversation. But lesson number 3 was learning firsthand that uncorrected cycles will definitely repeat themselves. Um, maybe in 2022, what was 2022? 2022, my father had been gone for 5 years at that point. Um, oh my God, going on 5 years. Oh, it's like sometimes you be thinking about stuff like that, and it's just like, dang, like it's been that long. I ain't seen you in that long, for real. But 2022, I decided that I could not take it anymore. I had been in New Jersey since my father passed. Well, not completely the whole time. I did end up, back and forth from here. My mom lived in Georgia, so I was down there for a little bit. But I had been down there and came back, and I had tried to build a life in New Jersey, but I was going through it. I was grieving. I was experiencing so many things that I had never experienced before that I didn't know how to explain. And I would ask people for help, and it would get taken as disrespect, or I would lash out. And, I was lashing out. I ain't even gonna lie about that part. But um, when you see that a child is in need, because essentially that's what I was. I was 17 with a baby. I was still a child. Even now, some days I still feel like a child. Um, but when you see that a child is going through something, or at least me personally, being an adult now, and having my own child, being a parent, there are certain things that I just wouldn't take offense to. Even if I decided that I had to deal with you a certain way, I would not take offense to, because I see that you're going through something. And I felt like I had been, abandoned by a lot of my family. The close family that I was in contact with, I felt like they had basically like deemed me dramatic. That was everybody's thing. Oh, Koi is dramatic. She's always going through it. She always got this going on. And me and my mom had a conversation more recently, where we were kind of going back and forth, and uh I was like talking about my dad's death and how it affected me. And she was like, "You're not the only person who was affected by his death." And I was like, "That's all I wanted y'all to say." Like that, I was trying to get them to see that, like, I just wanted somebody else to acknowledge that this was happening. And I felt like I was going crazy because nobody would acknowledge that. So I up and moved. I didn't tell anybody. I packed up all my stuff and I moved down south. I ended up in South Carolina and I started flourishing. But I left everything behind. Like I said, I didn't tell anybody that I was moving up until a week before I was gone. I had sold everything in my house, basically got rid of my apartment, broke my lease, and I just was gone. And I got down there, and about 2 years into me living this new life, and I felt good. Everything that I was feeling before I left started coming back up. And now I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. And when I left, I stopped talking to my family. I wasn't in contact with anybody. I had just completely cut contact. I wasn't letting anybody talk to my son, just because, with family, sometimes there can be lines that people feel like it's okay to cross. And I was very adamant about that line being there. Like, this is a cement wall that you're not gonna cross. So we just gonna cut all of that. We just gonna cut contact. And I did that for about 2 years, and then I started talking to my family again. And this was like around the time that I started feeling everything, and uh I ended up moving with my mom. We ended up moving, and everything was good at first. She came and we talked about some stuff. That was the conversation I was talking about. We talked about some stuff, and she was like, into it. And then things started slowly reverting. Sorry, I'm trying to pull my notes back up. But things started slowly reverting back to the way they were before. And I was now back in a situation where I felt like a child again. I wasn't being understood when I talked, and I wasn't even being like heard out for real. And that for me is like my biggest thing. Even if we don't agree, hear me out. And at this point, it was like, okay, I'm an adult. This was different when I was a child and y'all was making me feel crazy, but I'm an adult now. I've been taking care of myself for the last few years. You will not come in and do this. And but it I was in a position where I couldn't just go back to my life because I had up and rooted everything, trying to be a family again. And now we're back in the same cycle where, anything that I say is being counted as disrespect. Just going through a lot. And this time around, I have reached a point where it's like, okay, I see what the family dynamic is. I'm not going to take it so personal. I'm just going to do what I need to do to get myself back to where I belong because I don't belong here. And that's honestly how I feel. I felt like I was letting my family back into my life and we were turning over a new leaf. And in turn, I found that I was just letting my family trauma back into my life. But I will say that I did learn fully. I saw an effect because we can all say stuff in theory. We can all give advice that we have never accepted ourselves, but I did learn fully in the physical that you do have to address these things. You have to address them with yourself. When I first left my hometown, and I'm from Newark, New Jersey. But when I first left New Jersey, I was just running, looking back. Like I was just focused on getting away. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was leaving to go to. I just knew I couldn't be here anymore. And now I've gone through all of this and I know what my purpose is. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So now I can look forward and actually leave the past in the past. And I'm not mad at anybody as far as my family dynamic goes, but I definitely, I can't, that's not for me to engage in, and that's something that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to when it comes to breaking cycles. Is you're gonna get to the point where you realize, okay, I have to step outside of this to be able to correct this for myself. I don't need to change anybody. I don't need to force any ideas on anybody. I just need to step outside of it. Um, so moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the difference between surviving and actually living. And this is what I had realized was my thing when I was in South Carolina. But when I had got to South Carolina, before I had left, I was, constantly trying to figure out how I'm going to pay the bills, working jobs where I didn't feel fulfilled, or I was going through stuff at work that I never ever should have been going through, little like clique problems and high school drama. And it was just like, okay, I'm here to work. Like, y'all mad because I don't want to sit with y'all at lunch? Like, what we talking about for real? Going through stuff like that, I also, as far as my personality went, I've always been a very outspoken person. I've always been very curious as well, but and it seems like we live in a time where nobody likes being asked questions. What's up with that? That part confuses me because how else am I supposed to know if I don't ask? And then these are the same people who will look at you and be like, oh, well, you should have knew. I shouldn't have known nothing. You flipped off the wall because I asked. So I kind of like, grew a conflict there within myself where it was like, okay, you're getting this response. And one thing I do want to say about my dad is he was a very blunt parent. Okay. His parenting style was, I'm going to tell you like it is. Okay. I was like 14 and he was telling me, like, okay, you're going to become a statistic if you don't do what you're supposed to do. It's girls 15, 16, 17 out here having babies, no daddy in sight. Like, this is how he would talk to me. And I felt like it was so harsh at the time where it was like, why are you saying this to me? What do I need to know this for? But first of all, I went and had a baby at 17. So there's that. Um, but also, it was like, even though in the moment he probably could have said it better or went about it a different way, I appreciate now so much more than ever that I had an adult in my life at any point in time that was real with me. Because when I got older and I saw how ugly the world really is and I started having questions, I got met with a lot of adults who guarded their ego so much so that they set out to make me feel like I was overstepping by even wondering or having these feelings. And it's just like, I'm not doing it on purpose. Like, I just want to know. I'm not even, coming at you any type of way. I'm just trying to understand. And you're looking at me like, well, you're disrespectful for even thinking about this. Like, and and so I had that love for him. But after he passed away, I felt like I kind of lost that for some years, where every time I had something to address, people would do more deflecting than reflecting, or, people would do more blaming than understanding. And it kind of pushed me into this bubble of, okay, don't speak on it, just let it go. But I'm also, I have very big emotions. And what I mean by that is my mind will zoom in on a feeling. I will unpack where it came from, how I got here, how to handle it. And when I feel like I can't go down any of the solutions that I come up with, now I'm just sitting there with this big bubble of thoughts, this big bubble of anger, this big bubble of grief that is just, what am I supposed to do with it? I don't even know. And so I went through this like transformation where I made myself small, trying to, maintain relationships and, not get in people's way, not step on anybody's toes. And it just drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. Like, and so I had to break that versus getting to South Carolina. And now I'm down there, and shout out to my cousins. Okay. Love them girls down. Uh, I was met with understanding, even in conflict. It was like, okay, why you didn't just say that? Like, no, I don't like that, but that don't mean nothing. Like, girl, that's your life. Like, and this is a constant back and forth where I would go and just fight myself so much on even speaking up on small things. And when I finally did, it was like, okay, I see why you feel like that. I see how you could think like that, but that's not what it is down here. And I love them so much for that, because they are a big part. I have three of them, three cousins that I love down. Okay. And all my kids, I love them so much. But I was just met with so much respect. And I was there for 3 years, and I plan on moving back. I plan on going back home. I'm coming. But I was there for 3 years. And in that time, I just was met with so much love, and it healed so many parts of me. But have you ever heard like women who used to be in toxic relationships and now they're in healthy relationships talk about how like now they the problem? Yeah, that was me. That was me, having heart palpitations when it was time for me to say how I feel about stuff. That was definitely me. Now I'm over there, in fight or flight mode, and ain't nothing even going on. But I've always been very self-aware. And so once I got to a point where like I was aware of the fact that I'm having feelings and I know where these feelings come from. I know the situation that made these arise, but that's not this situation. So why do I feel like that? My issue was I didn't know how to unpack it. I didn't know how to unpack it. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know how to address it. And I felt like, at one point in time, it got very constant. Every day I'm feeling this, I'm feeling like this. And I just felt like, okay, well, don't nobody want to hear this every day. Don't nobody want to hear this every day. I can't come to them every day and say, I'm feeling this. Like, and I started bottling it up again and doing my own little self-sabotaging stuff. And so but I had already grown so much. So at some point it was like, okay, I see that this is a problem. I see that I'm experiencing these things that I experienced before, but I don't know how to deal with them. And this is where, intentional living started for me, because it was like, okay, do the little things that you can do to break this. Say the thing, and even talk to them about that. And I was able to talk to them about, there was times where like they would go out and I would be feeling like, oh my God, like they probably just talking about me and they hate me and like talking all this stuff about me and just saying all this stuff. And I don't know what they're talking about when they're not with me. And it's like, girl, be so for real. If anybody feels some type of way, you know, every time they're going to let you know. And I would tell myself this and set this as a standard for myself. And it was very hard to break. Okay. When I tell you I was so deep in it that anytime I had to say anything that I felt like somebody would disagree with, my heart would start pounding. It was very, very hard to overcome. But this is what intentional living did for me. I also went through a period with work where it was like my mom has been a hairstylist literally all my life. She's owned shops, she's put out products, she's been very successful in her life with her career. And I admire that, but I've never had the urge to be a hairstylist. And I think I did in the beginning, but towards the end it was just like not really. Um More so because I felt like I was being pushed into it, so I kind of, just let it go. But uh so I went through a time where I was trying to figure out like what am I supposed to be doing. I went and I started cosmetology school and then dropped out. Um because it was like, okay, well, I don't want to have to pay y'all all this money back, and I don't even want to be here. Like, I don't want to do this. I know I don't want to do hair. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a shop. That's gonna be my work. You know how they be like, do your 9 to 5 while you're working on what you really want to work on. And I'm over here like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get a shop, and that's gonna be my 9 to 5 insert. Girl, you about to set yourself up. You about to set yourself up. So after I had realized that, it was like, okay, dead that. And I dropped out of cosmetology school and just, tried to start the hair business over and over because I've always been good at it. I've always been good at doing hair. But I don't like it. I don't like it. And now I'm here talking to you guys. I have a career in finance and I love it. Um, so moving more towards intentional living, I had got on this path because I started teaching my son financial literacy. And it was basic. He's going to the second grade. We were just learning, like, oh, what does money mean? What do you use it for? And I was sitting here giving him the information like, I don't know half this stuff. Like without reading it, I don't know half this stuff. And then I'm looking like I know tons of people older than me, my age, younger than me, who don't know this stuff either. Parents, not parents. What is going on? Like, and that for me, that started my love for finance. But I had learned, when you have a feeling for something, move towards it. And so South Carolina kind of put me in this space of, okay, you can be whatever you want to be. You can be whatever you need to be. New Jersey was where you were what you had to be. And that was the survival mode. That was the trying to just get by. But now you're down here and a year in, you realize you're still living the life that you had to live back there and you can be anything you want to be. So we started on working on intentional living. I've always been an intentional parent. I've always, decided that I was going to tell my son the truth. I'm not going to get mad at him. I tried to stop whooping him very early. I never really hit him much. When he was younger, he used to get popped, but for the most part, I never really, like whooped him. I always would talk to him, try to explain stuff to him. And so in that aspect, I've kind of always did intentional parenting. But as far as my life, it did take me some time being away from all of everything that I was raised around to kind of figure out what intentional living looked like for me. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about the difference between intentional living and being in survival mode. Now, I want to talk to y'all about how thriving and functioning are not the same thing. Okay, you could be working a good job, doing overtime, got the money coming in, living the life that you think everybody would be so proud of, and you're not happy at all. You're not thriving, boo. You're functioning. If you go to that job 7 days a week to pay for things that you don't even care about, you are not thriving. You are functioning. Okay. And we're going to leave that there for now. What got me in this space right here, and I would say it really took place once I got depressed a little bit towards the end, right around the time when I started talking to my family again. I had to find God. Okay, I had to find him. I had to walk to him. I had to lay my burdens down, and I had to put my hands up. Okay, I had to tell him, I know you are my father, and I will obey you. Okay, um, and that is why we started this episode with a Bible verse. Because moving along, I do just want everybody to understand that when you do this work, and we are going to do the work. Okay, I'm going to give you tools to work on yourself, work on your finances. But when you are doing this work, outside sources cannot be your validation. You have to be able to look inside yourself. You have to be able to know. And I want you to understand that you are not depending on your own strength. You're not dependent on your own strength. You need to look up. Okay? Look up. You don't ask God to do for you. You tell him that you are walking with him and you are going to follow his plan for your life. You be obedient. Okay? It took me building a relationship with him, getting into my Bible and understand. And I do want to clarify, I do not consider myself religious. I don't, at the space I'm in my life right now, I don't consider myself religious. But what I do consider myself is a child of God. And so that may look different for everybody, and it's supposed to. Okay. When we feel conviction, it's not just one flat out, oh, this is a bad thing, don't do it. Some people feel convicted to stay away from or pursue other things that people do not. My calling is not everybody else's calling. Your calling is not my calling. And so when you walk with him and when you put outside validation to the side, we don't need it. You learn, okay, I can actually see what would make me happy. I can actually get through these things. I don't have to fear that I won't be able to make it. I don't have to worry about if somebody's going to accept me because I'm comfortable in me. I know that through him, all things are possible. Okay. And it just sets you in a space to not be so worried about your finances, about if your life will turn out, about if you're going to end up with this person or that person. And, you still have these feelings, they don't just disappear because you're following God. But at the end of the day, you learn how to deal with them in a way that's not self-destructive, because that's the biggest thing. No self-destruction. Okay. We need to stay away from all of that. So coming to a close now. I love you guys, and I am so happy that we finally were able to get this started. I cannot wait to hear all the feedback. I cannot wait to even meet some of the people. Like, I have so many plans. I love you guys so much, and y'all don't even know yet. Okay? But I do want to leave y'all with some reflection. And this is step one. Our first few tools will just be reflective questions. I want everybody to look inside themselves, even if you have to do it in the mirror. Do it in the mirror, do it on a piece of paper, write it in your, if you got an Apple product, you got a journal app on your phone, okay? I got an iPhone. I know how it works. I don't want anybody saying that they don't have no resources, okay? I don't care if you have to text, and this is something that I do. Text a random number that you know is not active. Text everything you need to in that random number. And that thread is not going to deliver, but that will be a thread in your text messages where you have that information that you sent. It's not going to deliver, but you will have it. Do what you need to do so that way I don't want to, no excuses. This is where we leave our excuses behind. We can work through it. Okay, you found a way to watch this video, you can find a way to do everything else that you need to do. So I want to leave everybody with some reflective questions. Okay, just think about this and drop your answer in the comments below. or write it in a journal. Keep it to yourself, but answer the questions and just reflect on how you feel after. Our first question is, what are the beliefs that you are still surviving under? Think about things that you were told growing up. Think about, people that you may idolize. And how they live their lives. What standards do you hold yourself to that you're struggling to reach, or that don't exactly align with you, but it would be nice to do? Think about things like that. And then our second question is, what's one area of your life that's on autopilot that's not serving you? Okay, are you just coming in and passing out all your money to them kids? And dang well you're not saving for college, you're not putting no money aside for emergencies, you're not doing all of that, but you so used to wanting to do for your kids that you just get them anything they want. These are things, okay, that we need to think about and address, and we're going to address them. I'm here to hold y'all hand, but I'm gonna let y'all know that while I'm holding y'all hand, we're gonna be running and we're not gonna stop. Okay. I do want to thank everybody again for coming. I will have it linked below, but we do have a free community to join called the Bloomers Commune. Come in, we put in prompts in there. We give out free tools and paid tools. Right now, I have an ebook for $8 that helps you start the process to identifying your money mindset. What is a money mindset? It's going to help you identify what it is that you believe about money, and you'll be able to see why you do the things that you do when it comes to money. What are beliefs that you have? Are you stopping yourself from walking into certain rooms or doing certain deals or taking certain jobs because you have certain beliefs? Are you doing that? You might be. Yeah. Don't deny it. Don't deny it. But I definitely thank you guys again for coming and staying and listening. And I hope that you now can listen to yourself the way that you have sat here and listened to me, because that's all we want. Okay. Thank you guys again for coming. I'm your host, Mazani, and I'll see y'all on the next episode of the Bloom Code Podcast.